If you're still rocking DC shoes in 2025, I can only assume that you peaked during the Bam Margera's My Hero era and never looked back. DCs are the official footwear of my 8th grade bully who called me bro right before he shoved my binder off my desk. It's the official shoe of people who think Monster Energy is a personality trait. Bro still thinks Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 is a fashion guide. So dude's about to drop into a middle school talent show with a fingerboard routine. But all jokes aside, DC has been a giant player in the skate game for their super tech driven shoes. So they changed a lot about how skate shoes are made and like what is actually put into skate shoes. They're probably the biggest name in skating from the late 90s to the early 2000s, and surprisingly they're having a big resurgence in popularity right now. They still have a pretty diehard following in places like Philly and circles, you know, super baggy jersey, khaki fits never really went out of style. Big puffy shoes, they're back in. I heard from a rep that the court graphics, like the DCs with the big DC on the back of the shoe, are some of the best selling shoes at Zumiez right now. So that's insane. Everything's cyclical. So I got one of their oldest models. It's been around for almost 30 years to see how do the puffy DC shoes actually skate? Should you buy these or leave them back in, 2008? Is DC still the king of skater boys? So a quick history of all of DC, because there's some crazy stuff that goes on that I didn't even know about before I started this video. So take it all the way back to 1989 to like 1991. Ken Block started screen printing t-shirts and teamed up with his college friend Damon Way to create the brand 8 Ball Clothing. 8 Ball started selling in stores and grew quickly to expand to a 750 square foot warehouse with the endorsement help of Damon Way's brother Danny Way, who's one of the most influential skateboarders of all time, which helps to have on your side. But they didn't own the trademark to 8 Ball and they were forced to change the name and started a pants company called Drawers, which expanded into Drawers Clothing, also known as DC. Drawers Clothing, DC. So in 1994, DC Shoes was launched, and the brand quickly gained traction within the skateboarding community as it was endorsed, by Danny Way, and they're producing some of the most technological skate shoes of the time. They're way more advanced than the rest of the market. They did about roughly $1.5 million in sales in just their first year. So by 1995, the company's revenues had reached $7 million, which shows how popular they'd become so fast. And then allegedly DC had been hit with a couple lawsuits by Champion and Converse over logo designs looking too similar with C's and stars on footwear, so they're forced to redesign their logo a couple times into what it is today. But DC also diversified themselves within the action sports market outside of skating by getting into snowboarding, dirt biking, surfing, tons more. By 2000, DC shoe revenues had climbed up to $60 million, which means DC had been almost doubling revenues every single year they had been producing shoes. They're being endorsed by really big pro skater names at that time like Danny Way, Rob Dyrdek, Josh Kalis, Ryan Wenning, Stevie Williams. There's tons more. In 2004, another early 2000s juggernaut, Quicksilver, acquired DC shoes for $87 million. So usually an acquisition is the first sign of trouble for a flourishing brand, because then you have to start making the numbers go up every single year for stakeholders and investors. But DC has had an extensive history of sponsoring big events that get a lot of eyes on their brands and push a lot of sales, like when Danny Way jumped over the Great Wall of China in 2005 wearing DC shoes. And they even offered to pay the city of Philadelphia $1 million so people could skate Love Park. Because in 2007, Quicksilver announced that its stock had plummeted 87% from the previous year. They had bought Rossignol, a ski company, for like $350 million, and it did so poorly they had to sell it for like $150 million. So huge $100 million loss on that. Followed by the economic recession of 2009, Quicksilver had accumulated about $1 billion in debt. That's billion with a B. Billion. With all that debt, the money to sponsor these big events and sponsor the best skaters kind of started drying up. But during this time, Rob Dyrdek started to appear on TV shows like Rob and Big, Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, and my favorite hotel room TV show, Ridiculousness. And he would wear DC clothes. Everything was decked out in DC. Allegedly, he was responsible for about doubling DC sales at that time. But like all popular things, what goes up must come down. For me, I felt like the heyday of DC was like 2005 to 2010. Like I was wearing the court graphics in 8th grade. I wanted a pair with the skulls on them so bad, but my mom would not let me wear skulls on my clothes, which was a bummer. But I bought them from Payless. And it's like, once a brand reaches that sort of mainstream, that they're in Payless shoes and like Ross, they're usually no longer cool to the core groups who made them what they are. In my opinion, from like 2011 to 2018, DC shoes kind of went really out of style. They got replaced by slimmer shoes like Vans and like Nike Janoskis, and like all the big name brands started getting into the skate game. DC had started sponsoring some bigger names like Nigel Houston and Mikey Taylor, but the team was just not what it once was in the 90s. It's kind of going downhill, which kind of leads to further acquisitions, and in 2018, Board Riders Inc., which is the parent company of Quicksilver, Roxy, and DC, acquired Billabong International. It included brands like Billabong, Ruka, Von Zipper, and Excel. When I was working in a skate shop in like 2019 to 2020-ish, DC shoes were definitely not selling. Like I think I sold maybe 2 to 3 pairs the whole time I was there. They definitely still had a cult following, like especially on the East Coast. You got riders like John Shanahan's, who looks like if 1999 was a human being, but they definitely are nowhere near the same level that they once were. So then, In 2023, Authentic Brands Group, who we've already heard about on this channel already, owning brands like Fry Boots, Reebok, Palladium, Hunter, tons more. Another one of these big corporate conglomerates that's been coming through and buying up all these old names. They acquired all of the Board Riders brands, including DC Shoes, and unfortunately, Ken Block was killed in a snowmobiling accident the very same year, which sucks. R.I.P. Ken Block, like he was super cool. So now, after, what was that, 4 acquisitions, and in the year of our Lord 2025, DC Shoes are definitely starting to make a comeback to being cool again. The circle of life, it's come back around again. Gen Z kids are wearing them. Big puffy shoes are back. It's 2005 in my head. It's sick. Life is great. So let's see how these actual skate. So the brand is DC Shoes. The style is the Lynx OG. It weighs 1 pound, 2 ounces. Retails for a price of $110. It's made in Vietnam. The positioning of the shoe from the brand website is a DC team favorite and industry staple since the late 90s. The model was synonymous with DC Shoes riders such as Josh Kalis and Brian Wenning before they both attained pro model status. The Lynx quickly became the go-to shoe in skateboarding during the turn of the decade. 2018 marks the Lynx's 20th anniversary. So this shoe's been around for like 25, let's see, 2018, 27 years. This is a 27-year-old model. That's like attaining Nike status. If you want a pair of these shoes, you can check them out with the links below. So let's start with the upper. And before I get into the material, I want to talk about the big elephant in the room, which is the fit and feel of this gigantic puffy tongue monster. I thought these were going to feel awful on my foot, like just huge Kleenex boxes. Big and puffy and me do not get along very well. I like usually slimmer, like more vulcanized style shoes, but honestly, they fit really well and they can snug down if you need them to. So like right off the bat, the fit was definitely not as chunky feeling as it looks. It felt really good. And that's probably the thing that most people are concerned with. So if you go into the actual material of the upper, there's a mix of suede, leather, and textiles, a lot of foam all over the shoe. You can see the suede is in the high wear areas, like where you flick and do ollies. There's a little patch of like what looks like grain leather in the middle where the DC logo is on. So going to the most important materials, the suede, it's 1.5 millimeters thick, which is pretty average for a skate shoe and sneaker leather. We put it on the burn test and the suede burns, it's just like normal suede. The grain leather portion, unfortunately, is not real. It just melts and lights on fire. So not real leather in the middle. And then the textile bit at the back also melts. So it's some sort of synthetic material. It's not like cotton or anything on the back. So kind of a bummer to not see actual leather in the middle of the shoe, but at least, the suede is decent. And surprisingly, the suede took like 219 pounds to puncture through. I think it's because the suede is so thin and stretchy, the needle stretches before it punctures. All right, so we'll start with the pros. It didn't get too broken in, like it didn't get too floppy or too soggy after wearing it for a while. And then, while it looks really chunky, the super puffy tongue fit and felt like pretty good, honestly. Cons of the upper, like the leather it's not really a con. The leather is just okay. The time I skated this was March 28th, and the last time I skated was April 13th. So it took about 2.5 weeks to start to go through the leather. Like you can see the hole is starting on the ollie spot. So you can see the toe leather broke down way faster than the actual side, but both still have holes. The leathers are both backed by like a non-woven stiffener, so it's not actually a double layer right here like it kind of looks like. It's just panels of leather meant to look like dual layers. So another con was the laces bust through pretty fast. So after about 2 sessions, I was trying to tighten them and it just like popped off. And then I probably broke my laces almost every other session, which is a bummer. I mean, the lace right here, this top eyelet is in the perfect spot to get absolutely cooked because every other lace is covered. It's just this top one that would just get demolished. So the rubber part of the toe that comes up, it was almost too grippy. It was like I had to flick really fast before my ollie got too high or it'd stick too much to my foot and not flick or like under flick. It's probably why the toe leather went out so fast because I was doing a million kickflips trying to figure out like why my kickflips were being so wonky in this one. So some people may love that extra stickiness and like grippiness. For me, it just kind of threw me off the whole time, but it was not bad. Like overall, the upper I felt was pretty solid. If you go to the inside lining, it's just like a basic textile lining, but you can see that there's a panel cut out on the inside for airflow. Usually like in other shoes, you see like little tiny holes punctured in the leather that don't actually do anything. But I think because this panel is so big and like it's literally just a big open hole in the shoe, it added maybe a little bit more airflow than you'd usually get. Like we put it on the breathability test and you can see that all the smoke would come out here. Just don't step in any puddles because there is the giant hole in the shoe. So if we go to the insole, it's a non-removable foam insole. I think it's the first non-removable insole on a skate shoe I have reviewed so far. I didn't mind the feel of this one. It's not like super cushy, it's not super responsive, it's just kind of like basic insole, but it felt okay to me. It might affect the fit if you like to put your own insole in because you have to like literally tear this one out and it might be like bits and pieces of stuff left in the shoe. We put on the ball drop test and it bounced up 17.5 inches, which is pretty high for a skate shoe. It might be the highest of all the skate shoes we have done. So that brings us to the midsole, and you can see that there's like a little window cut out in the bottom of the outsole that looks like there's something in there. It's just like a little red hole that you can see in there. On the website, DC calls calls it the Impact ALG heel cushion. A lot of cupsoles you see like a little square of padding. Like in the A6 you got a little square of gel, and pretty much any Nike Zoom you just get a little pad of air on your heel. So I assume that's what it's doing, and the rest of the midsole I assume is probably foam, just like a Nike Dunk. The pop is not bad. Like I honestly thought this shoe was gonna be completely dead on my foot and be like full of cushion, but it's really good. It's really responsive. It's a lot more responsive than I thought it was gonna be. It honestly felt pretty thin on foot with more board feel than I would have expected, especially on the toes. So you'll definitely still be able to feel where your foot is, like when you're on rails and ledges, you'll have that articulation on your toes. It does a decent job cushioning. Like I did a bunch of drops just to get a sense of like how it actually cushions, because I thought these were gonna be a lot more cushiony than they were. It's not the softest landing, but it definitely does the job. So if you go to the outsole, so it's a rubber cupsole that actually has a small arch in it, which I have never skated a shoe that has any sort of arch in it. For the skating analysis, this outsole is like pretty slippery to begin with. It kind of takes you a second to get used to it and like figure out where your foot needs to be. The heel also feels a little bit blocky. But like I said, like there's a ton of board feel on the toes, but the heel is a little less sensitive. Normal manuals felt pretty fine, but like I could not lock into a nose manual to save my life with these. Something about the lack of board feel, like from the heel back, maybe just kind of lose where I was when I was trying to get into a nose manual. It's also kind of wearing away pretty fast. Like you can see it's starting to go like where I pivot and around the edge where I actually flick, it's starting to wear down pretty fast. But overall, it has a lot better pop and board feel than I expect as a whole. Like I thought this big outsole was just gonna be like stiff and chunky and awful to skate in, but it's pretty good. I honestly really enjoyed skating in it. It just might not be as durable as the rest of the cupsoles we've seen, because it's going through, you know, fairly quick for a cupsole. So that's everything you can see from the outside of the shoe. I'm really curious to like cut this in half and see what's actually going on the inside. And that's where a lot of people, you know, hide all of their stuff. So let's get this thing chopped.
What is it that you guys have been asking us for nonstop? Blood core belts. Look at that. So super limited quantities. These are a pain in the butt to make. And so get them before they're gone. You know, you're gonna be a little bit of the testing batch, so I'd appreciate some feedback, how to make this work better, because it's basically the boot thickness leather doubled up, sewn together with our classic solid brass buckle. That's not the only brand new thing that we released. So we finally released all the wallets, including the Clayton and Bloodcore. You can see that the edges are not nearly as bright because we have to burnish them, but that'll start popping out more as you wear it too, just like the actual Bloodcore concept is. But there's more, because we finally, there's another thing, people are like, hey, we want to buy Bloodcore. So we got little baby panels and we got big daddy panels. And then you've obviously got the boot pocket kit. You've got coasters. You got the little bracelets. You got the ring kits. So limited quantities, get them before they're gone, especially limited quantities on these. And because it's just a trial run. We're learning how to do this with this leather, and so it's a little bit of a trial run. Thank you guys for your support of Bloodcore. You can only get it from us. And we finally opened it up to a belt and all of our wallets. So check them out below. Oh my goodness.
All right, got it cut in half, and this gigantic foam tongue did not want to cut. Holy cow, that was really hard to cut. But make sure you like, comment, subscribe. That's the best way to support us, so we can keep cutting in half all of these shoes, so you can see what you're spending your hard-earned money on and see what skate shoes you want to actually wear. And I really want to start like a testing pool in skate shoes, so maybe I'll put a form in the description and you can like put what shoes you've been skating, and if a video comes up, you can like get your clips in the video and send pics of like how your shoe wears out like after skating. I feel like that's one thing we're missing is like a long-term review. I'll put a form down there. You can fill it out, let me know. It'll be a good barometer of like what else we should cut in half. I know for sure we have some Adidas Samba ADVs and Last Resort CM002s coming up, and something else very sick that I'm super stoked about that I think you guys are gonna be really hyped about seeing. This actually might be out after that happens, so if it already happened, wow, and go watch that video. If it hasn't already happened, wow, go watch that video. So let's see what's inside. Let's start with the cushioning. So the Impact ALG heel is just like a bit of dense gel-like material. You know, a little circular gel heel with like little tiny holes in it. When I was sanding the shoe, our sanding machine actually sucked this thing out. So, I mean, you see there's actually no foam midsole like I thought there was going to be. It's just a columned rubber outsole, which is why the ball drop test was probably so high, because it was just hitting off rubber. There's definitely a lot more board feel than if this was just a bunch of foam. But you can see that the problem is when there's a soft lasting material like this, all the material starts compressing into these holes, and you'll start to be able to feel these rubber columns as like high spots within your toe. Like when I was skating, it definitely feels hard. Like the ball of my foot definitely got a little bit sore after skating it, and that's because there's no foam. But it is interesting to see that like you can see where my toes have compressed the foam into like the actual shape of my shoe. So that must be why I liked the insole so much, is because I don't know, it just like forms to the shape of your foot. So we move to the outsole, like including the columns, the outsole is about 18 millimeters thick on the heel and about 8 millimeters thick on the toe. So that's why you get so much more board feel in the toe, and it just feels a little more blocky and less sensitive in the heel, which was okay. I really liked it. But honestly, it's built a little more cheaply than I would have expected. For the final skating analysis, is kind of everything you need to know if you want to buy this shoe. I'd say its closest competitors are probably a Nike Dunk, obviously, but it's built more similar to the Lakai Telford Low, where it's just where there's foam in a Dunk, it's just been replaced with the rubber columned outsole. So it actually skates way better than I thought it would. Like I thought it was just gonna be dead on my feet, just a huge block of foam with another huge block of rubber beneath you, but it's actually really responsive, and I know, I really enjoyed skating this more than I thought I was going to. The upper is decent, it's just not super durable. The toe is almost too grippy, which is good for ollies. I mean, it's really good for ollies because it like grabs your grip tape and actually helps you pop up. But for the kick flips, it just kind of threw me off because, you know, it's too grippy. And the toe is almost too grippy sometimes, which is good and bad. It's good for ollieing high, bad for my kick flips specifically. The cushioning is good, and I had pretty good board feel for a cup sole. It definitely, like my toes and ball of my foot, definitely feeling a little sore after I'd skate these for a long time, but my heel was totally fine. And the outsole, it was a little bit weird and slippery at first, but it breaks in, you get used to it, and it skates totally fine. And the biggest bummer of all though was that the laces did break a ton, which was kind of annoying. Like that's kind of a session killer if your laces break and you have to keep untying them and retying them. Honestly, the laces breaking could be a killer of the shoe. So bring an extra pair of laces, or like shoe glue your laces, super glue your laces if you're skating these. But it's not a bad shoe at all, like the way it felt. It's just super puffy and looks like a rectangle from your perspective, and like your pants get caught on the big puffy tongue. I honestly think I would choose this over a Nike Dunk because of the way it feels. Like if you want more cushion and less board feel, go Dunk. If you want more board feel, go DC Lynx. It is a little disappointing that it's not built super well, and the leather was going through a little bit fast, so definitely invest in some shoe goo if you're doing a lot of flick and a lot of ollies. Overall takeaways, fits really good, good pop. Leather is a little weak, and it's built kind of cheaply. It's maybe a little overpriced. I'd say it's probably like $20 overpriced. $10 to $20 overpriced. But that's kind of my takeaway for this whole shoe. I'm super interested if anyone else has been skating these for like the last 30 years. It would be sick to get like an OG pair, like from 1998, to see what has changed with all the acquisitions in DC. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Like, is DC actually coming back, or is it just, you know, this new company has bought them and they're gonna start flooding the market with a lot more shoes and a lot more marketing? I'm really curious to see where DC goes. So overall, Lynx, not a bad shoe. Let me know what you think in the comments, etc. You can call me a poser, it's totally fine. I still love to skate, doesn't matter. Go sign up for that 1,000,000 subscriber giveaway. I don't think I plugged that. We'll just keep doing 1,000 wrap-ups. I'm just gonna leave. See you guys next time.